After your season in that series, how did that series really change anything for you?
After doing that series, I really thought that I was going to go down the NASCAR route.
Right.
I really thought, okay, everybody talked to me and they're like, yeah, you're going to get in a truck ride now, or you're going to get an Xfinity ride. That's where you're going. You're going to be out there in one of the national series next year. And that's really where I thought I was going to end up. And then, I got a phone call from Roger Penske.
When he calls you, what did he call you directly and you pick it up and he's like, hey, I'm Roger Penske?
Yeah, so it's a pretty it's a pretty crazy story, It's really funny. I was out in Brainerd, Minnesota, and we were getting ready to load in for our Trans Am race. And I was out back because I just finished driving, because I drove our hauler out for the Trans Am races and stuff. I would drive that thing. I'm out in the back of in the trailer sleeping in the lounge, and I get a phone call, and it's a Michigan phone number, and I don't know who it is. I usually just won't answer like a random phone call, and I answer it, and the voice comes over and he's like, "Hi, this is Roger Penske. Is this Ernie Francis Jr.?" And I'm like, I sat there for a minute, and I'm like, man, I thought I was still asleep or something, or if I was dreaming or what was going on. And he asked again, and I responded, and it was Roger Penske on the phone, him directly, not an assistant, not anybody else. And we talked on the phone for about 30 minutes, and he told me that he had some plans for next year, and he wanted to talk with me in person and see what I thought about them.
And he wouldn't tell you what they were?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, he would not tell me what they were. So I'd
be like, oh my god.
Yeah, he just said fly out to Indianapolis for the NASCAR race at the Speedway, and we'll have a meeting there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I don't know what this could be about. I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be something for NASCAR. Does he want to put me in like his Xfinity car or what? Because I didn't think it was gonna go down the open wheel route at all. But yeah, that's where I showed up to the meeting there.
But wait a second, if he didn't tell you anything as far as why he was calling you, what was the 30 minutes of conversation like? Is he just asking you about you?
Yeah, he talked to me a lot about SRX. He talked about what I'd been doing, what else I've been racing this past season, and we just talked about stuff like that. He didn't talk to me about details of what it was gonna.
He was sizing you up.
Yeah, I think he was trying to kind of get a feel for me before we actually met in person. Yeah.
So you go to Indy, and what's the
probably the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life to meet somebody. And I did the full Penske beard shave and everything.
Did you?
Yeah. Because I talked with Willie a little bit, and Willie was like, you better shave that beard. Roger likes everything clean cut. And I'm like, man, I've been growing this thing for like 3 years. So the night before, I shaved the whole beard up and everything, and showed up to the track, and I was nervous and shaking and everything. And his assistant brings me over to his RV, and I walk inside there, and it's Roger, Tim Cindric, Rod Reed from Force Indy, who I didn't know at the time. Never met Tim Cindric, and never met Roger, and they're all kind of just sitting in there, and I just walk in, and they told me to sit on the couch, and we start talking about their plans and what they want to do, and kind of put it all together. And
what are the plans?
Well, they were talking about how they want to put together that Force Indy team that they were working on last year. They had it running in the USF series, but they want to take it to the next level because they really want to be able to bring that program into IndyCar and be able to race at the Indy 500 within the next few years was their goal. Mm-hmm. And they just wanted to kind of fast track that by bringing it into the Indy Lights Series right away, because that's really the big stepping stone from Indy Lights into IndyCar. And they asked me if I had interest in being the driver for that program and working with them over the next few years to trying to develop me for the 500. It was something that I never thought about. I never thought of myself being able to...
Not on the radar, right?
No, it was not on the radar. Never thought that I'd be able to race in the 500. Never thought I'd be racing, open-wheel cars like this. But yeah, I agreed to it right away. It's something that I would definitely love to do. And we talked about all the details of it, and then, had some more meetings since then. Roger actually flew down to South Florida, and he actually came over to my shop and met my parents with me. And,
wow.
We went out, and he was at my shop for about an hour and a half, 2 hours talking with us, and it going over everything, making sure it's something that I really wanted to go after and do.
Yeah.
Did you bring anybody to the meeting, or were you by yourself?
No, I was by myself.
Who did you call afterwards?
First person I called was my dad.
And what did you say to him?
I just told them exactly what was going on in the meeting because they had no idea either.
Right.
We had no idea what the meeting was going to be about or what they wanted me to do. So, I was just telling them everything they told me. Like they want to be able to race in the Indy 500 in the next few years, and they want me to run their Indy Lights program. And the next thing was like, we can't tell anybody about this. It's a secret. But it was a really cool phone call with my dad there to tell him about it because it's something that me and him have worked so hard for over the past years because, my whole Trans Am career was all run with my dad's team. That's the whole reason I got started in racing was, he raced Formula Atlantics and SCCA long before I was born.
Right.
So I grew up around it and, grew up watching him race and then working in the shop and, helping him with customers and then, working on my own car for his team and doing that and driving the truck to the racetrack. So, being able to sit down with Roger Penske and have him tell me that he wants me to drive for him in their program was something that, I'm never going to forget. And to be able to tell that to my dad right away and, him coming to all the races now, it's really cool.
So what was your dad's reaction?
He was so happy. He got pretty emotional several times over the past few months when we've talked about it, and especially when Roger actually came down to our shop, like that was something really special there. I actually went and picked him up from his dealership that was like right down the road, and I drove him over to the shop, and we talked with him, had lunch at the shop there, and it was something pretty cool.
Do you think you get that call from Roger Penske without the SRX series?
I don't think so. I think SRX is really what did it for me. I think I think everything happens for a reason, and I think the SRX series really opened a lot of doors for me because, I think I'm fairly accomplished in Trans Am and, had good accomplishments in the FR series that I was racing in, but none of that was on the radar of a guy like Roger Penske, I think. It just wasn't to that level, but being able to race in SRX and race against, guys like Elio and Tony Kanaan and Tony Stewart and being on live TV and then being able to...
That's right.
Being on live TV helps big time.
Yeah.
And then being able to win that race at IRP, I think, is what really did it. So
that's wild. So so you're an example of the success of that series. You mentioned live TV, being able to show your versatility as a driver, but also do you think that some of those guys that are the veterans and are respected took their opinion to a guy like Roger? Do you think, Roger calls up, Tony Kanaan or Helio and says, hey, y'all were on the racetrack with him, has he got the talent?
Yeah, I definitely think that did happen.
Yeah.
I know Paul Tracy actually talked with him a little bit.
Really?
About me. Yeah, he had mentioned that afterwards, and I think Elio did as well.
Awesome.
And then Willie knows him and mentioned things to him and to Tim Cindric a little bit.
Yep.
So they all kind of vouched for me a little bit afterwards, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Because these are guys that are legends to me. A guy like Elio, for example. Really cool moment with him at the last SRX race of the year at Nashville. My mom came up to that one, and back in 2013 was my first professional race at St. Pete, and I was racing in the World Challenge Series in a Camaro, and my mom was there, and I was 15 at the time, and this is my first pro race I've ever done, so me and my mom were walking around the paddock a little bit, and we walked by the Team Penske trailer, and there's Elio there with his car, and I see him, and I'm looking at my mom, and I'm like, one day I want to be like him, I want to be able to race for a team like that, and be like him there. And, years later, being able to race against him at SRX, and I actually, sat down and talked to him at Nashville with my mom there, and she kind of told him that story. It was really cool how it all came around full circle. And then to have a guy like him kind of vouch for me to Roger Penske, and now to be, racing for his program it's just crazy how it all kind of came around full circle to me.
If you like that conversation with Ernie Francis Jr., you need to listen to the whole podcast. The Dale Jr. Download is available on all major podcast platforms.